All right, this is Math 3.3, Chapter 3, Lesson 3. I hope you're having fun with math. I love math so much. I like when you have a problem, you can do the computation, you can think it out, you can get a solution. It's really fun. If you start with something you don't know, you put things together, and you get the answer. It's so cool. So hopefully you're having fun. This is Math 3.3. The learning target for this lesson is that you're going to estimate and find products of decimals and whole numbers. So you're going to have a decimal and you're going to have a whole number, and you're going to do two things. You're going to estimate it and you're going to find the actual. This will be a test to see how close are the estimates that we find. See if they're pretty close. Okay? So I have three problems here. This first one is 8 times 4.47, so I have a whole number and a decimal. I'm going to do the estimate first. So that 8 times, with this one, I'm only going to do this, the 4.47. I'm going to estimate that to be a whole number. Okay? 4.47, it's almost 4.5, but it's a little less. So I'm going to go to 4. 4 times 8, that equals 32. Okay? With signs, if you ever see little lines like that, it kind of looks like equals, but they're kind of squiggly. It means approximate. It means you're dealing with an estimate here. Okay, 8 times 4 is 32. Or you can do 8 times 4.747 is about 32. Okay, so let's see if our estimate of 32 is pretty close. The trick here, multiplying decimals to a whole number, I don't worry about the decimal exactly right now. I look at which number has the most digits. 447 is more than just 8. So I put the one with the most digits on top. 447 times 8. But this one does have a decimal, and so I bring it over and put it where it goes. Okay? Now, I'm going to ignore the decimal again just for a second, just to do the computation. Then we'll come back to the decimal. Okay? Now, if you don't know your math facts, like say 8 times 7, you need to practice those. Okay? With multiplication, big multiplication like this is just small multiplication. It's just the facts, and then you add it together. But you got to know the facts. You got to know those small ones. 7 times 6, 7 times 8, 9 times 6, 4 times 2, 3 times 8. Those little ones, you got to know them. So make sure you know this. Okay, so here, I'm going to make sure this 8 multiplies to everything. 8 times 7 is 56. I put the 6 here, and the 5 goes up here. And then I go 8 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32, and then I add whatever is up here. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 5 is 37. So I put my 7 here, so it's 37. Okay. 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 4 plus 5 is 37. Now I have one more to go. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 3 is 35. Now there's nothing left here, so I put the whole number right down there. So I have 3576. But it's not 3,576 because now, before I say I'm done, I have to do something with that decimal. Here's what I like to do. I take this decimal out. I'm going to move this guy. Okay? I'm moving it. I'm moving it out of this number, and I'm going to move it in to this number. So I go out this way, out, in. Okay? So you're moving out and you're moving in. I got to know how many place values do I move out so I can know how many place values I move in. So I go 1, 2. So it moved out 2 place values. So I'm going to start here and go 1, 2. There you go. I moved it out and moved it in. So my answer is 35.76, which is pretty close to 32. So I feel good about the estimate, I feel good about the actual, and I remembered how to do all that. Okay? So let's do 2 more problems, and hopefully this is sinking in and you're remembering this, and you're remembering how much you love math and how fun the math facts are. Okay, so let's do 9 times 2.63. 2.63, forgetting about the decimal, it has 3 digits. I'm going to put that one on top. 263. Put my decimal there. This one only has 1 digit, so times 9. Okay, now, I can do it. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 6, 54, plus 2 is 56. 56. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 5 is 23. Okay, 2, 3, 6, 7. I'm going to move out my decimal and move it back in. 1, 2, 1, 2. My answer is 23.67. I forgot to do an estimate. Okay, so we'll go back and do an estimate now. 9 times 2.63. It's between 2 and 3. 6 takes me up. It's closer to 3. 9 times 3, 27. 27, pretty close to 23. I'm in the ballpark. Okay. All right. I'm moving kind of quick, but I think you guys know this stuff. So I'm going to do one last problem, and then you'll have a chance to watch me do a few more in guided practice. Try it yourself. Do some independent practice. 0.12 times 8. Okay. This one has 3 digits. I might, well, you know what? I am going to use the 0 right now on this one. But 3 and 1, so I'm going to put the 0.12 times 8. Okay? Now, forget about the decimal. Just do your multiplication, knowing your facts. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. And 8 times 0 is 0. All right? Now I got to move the decimal out and move it in. 1, 2 out. 1, 2 in. Okay? All right. 0.96. If I would do an estimate on this one, I would take this down to 0. That'd be interesting, because then it'd be 0 times 8, which would be 0. I could take this to all the way to 1, which would be really high. So this is not a great one to estimate, so we won't do the estimate on that one. But if you do the actual, it's like this, and you get 0.96. Now, the thing I want to remind you, make sure I have enough time for this. I do. When you add and subtract, line up decimals. That's critical when you're adding and subtracting. When you're multiplying, let's just times or divide, you don't worry about the decimals are in line. You don't worry about that, okay? Add, subtract. So I really want you to remember when you're adding and subtracting decimals, you line that decimal up. It'll put you in perfect place value. You'll have it all lined up, and you'll be good to go. When it comes to here, you're not talking about lining up. You're talking about doing either the multiplication. We're going to get to division in a little while. And then you move it out and move it in. But even though it looks like it's lined up here, it's just a coincidence. It's not because it's lined up. Only with adding and subtracting decimals do you line up the decimal. Keep it all in line. Okay? Then you'll get a correct answer. But with multiplication, with division, don't worry about lining up decimals. Don't even think about it. Don't do it. It'll mess you up. Okay? So this is estimating and finding products of decimals and whole numbers. Go ahead and watch the guided practice and then do some independent practice on your own.